Hello and welcome to this mat-based Pilates video. This video will flow through towards the Passé Développé exercise, which is quite a well-known Pilates exercise in which we strengthen and lengthen the legs at the same time as toning the core muscles. In this video, I'll work through quite a detailed setup for Pilates, the neutral spine, the breathing and engaging the strength around the waist, and then proceed into a sequence that gradually prepares us for the Passé Développé exercise. I will work with quite a lot of detail, so the video should be accessible to beginners. If you're a more advanced practitioner, then you may find those details helpful and useful for developing your technique. Let's begin by rolling down through the spine, coming onto the mat. Switching your abdominal muscles on even as you're coming down. You can support coming down with the hands on the legs or keeping the collarbones open, shoulders drawn away from the ears, rolling down little by little, and then allowing the arms to relax by the sides. We're going to set up a 2 fist distance between the heels, so let's bring the feet together and then swivel the feet on the heels to turn the toes out, and then bringing the heels in line with the toes. Let's align through the spine now so we can lift the pelvis up and bring the weight of the hips back to the mat, balancing the weight out right side, left side. Then we can lift the ribs up and away from the mat, lengthening the waist out of the hips, bringing the ribs down towards the mat, balancing the weight out right side, left side. Supporting the head with the hands, let's lengthen the neck from between the shoulder blades through to the crown of the head and settling the head to the mat. And through all the exercises, when you know what you're doing, keeping the weight of your head centered. We're going to practice locating the neutral spine now. So on an exhalation, allowing the weight of your spine to relax into the mat. And then as you're ready again, breathing in to find neutral. A neutral spine will feel like this. The base of the tailbone, as if we had a little spotlight shining on the tailbone, be directing straight through to between the heels. Then the crests of the hip bones, just as if we got little headlights in the crests of the hip bones, they'd be shining straight up onto the ceiling. So not towards the wall in front of us, or not a little bit towards the wall behind us, but just directly straight up. And as we get the tailbone and the crests of the hip bones in these positions, then the weight of the spine in the back of the waist is probably not resting on the mat. So this is also neutral spine. The weight of the spine in the back of the waist, not resting on the mat. Your body might be touching the mat, but the weight of the spine isn't supported by the mat. Spine through the back of the rib cage in contact with the mat, and a fist distance between the chin and the chest, so the front of the chin is level to the ceiling, collarbones broad and open, and shoulders wide and relaxed. So let's practice another 2 or 3 times. Breathing out to relax the spine from the base of the neck towards the tailbone into the mat. Breathing in to direct the base of the tailbone to between the heels, little spotlight to between the heels, crests of the hip bones, headlights towards the ceiling, space between the spine and the floor through the back of the waist, spine through the back of the rib cage in contact with the mat, fist distance between the chin and the chest. Legs staying relaxed in the hip joints, and with the exhalations, relaxing the back into the mat. Breathing in to come through again, spotlight on the tailbone shining to between the heels, crests of the hip bones towards the ceiling, a sense that the spine through the back of the waist is not resting into the mat, spine through the back of the ribs is in contact with the mat, fist distance between the chin and the chest, and the front of the chin level to the ceiling. So now that we know how to find our neutral spine position, let's allow the neutral spine position to relax whilst we begin to focus a little bit on the Pilates breathing, the lateral breathing technique. And to do this, I always think it's most helpful to really internalize our experience of the breath. So let's begin by visualizing the space just above the nostrils, the space between the eyes. Spending a moment or so here to let the mind's eye connect with the space between the eyes, visualizing that length and breadth and depth of space there. And as the mind connects with that space, allowing it to soften, allowing it to relax and to expand. Let's bring the awareness into the nostrils themselves, thinking about from the inside, allowing the nostrils to relax and expand to receive the breath. And on the exhalations, as the breath leaves, allowing the nostrils to soften inwards again and relax behind the breath. Bringing the awareness into the space at the back of the mouth. Just thinking about that pocket of space, the length and breadth and depth of space there. And with the inhalation, as the coolness of the breath arrives at the back of the throat, from the inside, allowing this space to open, to soften, to expand. And on the exhalations, as the breath leaves, behind the breath, allowing that pocket of space to relax back inwards again. Letting the mind's eye travel on into the throat, thinking about the muscles through the passage of the throat, and on the inhalations, as the breath travels into the throat, allowing the throat to open from the inside to receive the breath. And on the exhalations, behind the breath, allowing the muscles of the throat to soften and relax, and all the muscles to relax from the inside of the neck. Following the breath now into the chest and still creating space from the inside, creating space between the breastbone and the spine on the inhalations, and on the exhalations feeling how from the inside the breastbone and the spine move back towards one another again. Thinking about the space of the breath into the sides of the chest, visualizing the breath expanding out towards the right side and the left side, behind the collarbones, into the ribs beneath the shoulder joints, and right down into the floating ribs at the base of the chest. And again, on the exhalations from the inside, feeling that the floating ribs are able to gather in towards the spine, feeling that the ribs at the sides of the chest beneath the shoulder joints are able to gather into the spine. Still keeping lots of softness through the nostrils and through the throat, right through the chest, as you're breathing in and letting the breath widen right through towards the floating ribs, seeing if you can as well from the inside expand the breath back towards the spine, into the base and the back of the floating ribs. And again, on the exhalations, allowing the breastbone and the spine to move together and the sides of the rib cage to gather in towards the spine. And as the breath moves in this way, you may be able to notice how, with this nice wide breath filling the chest each breath, on your exhalations, the muscles around the rib cage engage towards your spine. At the back of the rib cage, the muscles pulling in towards the spine, at the sides and across the front. Just allowing the mind's eye to rest into the depth of the midsection now, and seeing whether, if you are maintaining this wide breathing pattern that we've just been working on, seeing whether you're able to feel from deep within the waist that the muscles within the midsection are following the pattern of the rib cage, that the muscles deep within the waist, at the back of the waist, are engaging in and towards the spine. That the muscles in the sides of the waist are also from deep within the sides of the waist, engaging in towards the spine. And if the muscles across the front of the waist are as well engaging deep in and across towards the center of the abdomen. With the muscles working in the waist like this, we can always imagine that those muscles are acting like a belt or a corset, the strength of which can pull in around the spine. If you imagine your corset doing up at the back, or even your imaginary wide belt doing up at the back, if you've got 10 notches or 10 holes in your belt, just try to, with successive breaths, as you breathe out, really engage deep into the waist strength, keeping the legs relaxed at the hip joints and the gluteal muscles relaxed. breath by breath, really deep, drawing in at the back of the waist, sides of the waist front. And then when you've got lots of strength going deep within the waist, just holding on to that strength, holding on to the depth of the strength, but allowing the level of the strength to relax back to about the 7th notch on your belt. So keep the breath going here, and once the belt is fastened, then the spine often comes back into the neutral spine position. So thinking about a little spotlight on the base of the spine, shining through again to between the heels, and the crests of the hip bones shining the headlights up towards the ceiling, a little bit of space through the back of the waist, and the spine through the back of the rib cage in contact with the mat. We're going to engage strength now in the lower abdomen, just thinking about the hands coming into the pelvic diamond position, the thumbs together and the index fingers touching. And we can place the thumbs onto the navel and direct the index fingers towards the pubic bone, and the heels of the hands resting on the crests of the hip bones. And here now, from deep within the depth of the lower abdomen, drawing the muscles away from the heels of the hands at the sides of the abdomen. So we've got 3 thick layers of muscles here in the wide part of the lower abdomen. And if we begin to draw down and back from the deepest layer, and then the next layer up, and then the next layer up, and then drawing the lower abdomen away from the contact between the thumbs and the index fingers above the pubic bone. So breathing, still keeping the wide breath the way we practiced, and on the exhalations, drawing down and back, wide to the sides of the lower abdomen, and then through the center, breathing in and drawing down and back, wide to the sides and through the lower abdomen. And then we're just going to hold on to that strength from the pelvic diamond, just thinking about our belt strength again, nice and firm, wrapping in, back, sides and front, checking that we're in neutral. Little spotlight on the tailbone shining to between the heels, crests of the hip bones towards the ceiling, space between the spine and the floor at the back of the waist, spine through the back of the rib cage in contact with the mat. And then as you're ready, we're going to come into the side leg release exercise. And that's where, as we breathe out, one leg releases towards the side whilst we maintain the pelvis and the spine in the neutral alignment. Let's breathe in with the leg out to the side, breathing wide the way we've just practiced. And then as you're ready with the exhalation, squeezing the ribs in, squeezing the waist in, pelvic diamond working to bring the leg back in line with the hip joint. So breathing in to really lengthen your spine between the tailbone and the crown. Use the pelvic diamond strength and the waist strength to help you support the spine as you lengthen it. And then breathing out to release the left leg towards the side, working hard in the pelvic diamond and the muscles around the waist to maintain the pelvis in position. Breathing in here wide the way we practiced. And then again, breathing out to squeeze through the core muscles and just release the leg back to the center. So a number of things can happen when we're working this exercise. We don't engage enough strength in the waist and in the lower abdomen, and as the leg releases to the side, the pelvis and the spine potentially go with it. Or instead of working deeper and deeper and deeper into the core strength muscles to support the spinal alignment, we grip in the supporting leg, which doesn't help to train the core. And the other thing that happens is that as the weight of the leg goes to the side, even if people are testing that the hips aren't moving with the fingertips resting on the crests of the hip bones the way I'm doing, then what's actually happening is that they're letting that hip get a little bit heavier going into the floor, so they can't feel that the hip is actually shifting downwards. So ideally, when we're in neutral spine and our pelvic diamond is switched on and our waist strength is switched on and the ribs are engaged to the spine's a little bit lighter. The body is suspended, the trunk is suspended away from the mat. And as the weight of the leg goes to the side, you need to work as hard as you can in the back of the waist and in the lower abdomen to keep the weight of the pelvis as light on the mat as it is when both thighs are parallel. And that's where the strength is coming in. That's where the challenge is coming in. Supporting leg stays relaxed, pelvis stays level, and it stays light on the mat. So now let's give it another 3 goes to each side. So lengthening the spine, tailbone to crown, ribs and tapering into the spine, waist working, lower abdomen working, exhaling to release the right leg to the side, testing, engaging with the fingertips as you breathe in that the pelvis isn't shifting. Once again, as you're ready, breathing out to come back to the center. Breathing in to prepare, breathing out to lengthen the spine, preparing the lower abdomen, pelvic diamond, back of your waist works really, really hard, and the side, keeping the right knee directly towards the ceiling, breathing in this position, and once again breathing out to come back to the center. Breathing in to prepare, lengthen the spine, pelvic diamond, waist working, testing, engaging with the fingertips around the abdomen, pelvis and rib cage, that you're staying in neutral. Breathing in the position, breathing out to squeeze back. Breathing in here. Once again, keep the spine lengthening. Remember to keep the back of your neck lengthening as well. Just keep an eye on the supporting knee, that it stays towards the ceiling and doesn't counterweight the working leg. Breathing in here. Once again, breathing out to come center. Let's give it a last go to each side. Breathing in, really opening through the length of the spine, checking you're neutral. Exhalation, pelvic diamond, back and side of the waist working really hard. Leg releases to the side. Breathing in here. Exhalation to return to the center. One last time. Inhale to prepare. Test, engage with the fingertips on the crests of the hip bones. Breathing in your side leg release position. And once again, breathing out to come center. Well done. So from there, we're going to aim to stay in our neutral spine position as we slide one leg away from us. So pelvic diamond working hard, waist working hard. We're also going to slide the other leg away from us and still aiming to stay in the neutral spine with both legs extended. So now it's a lot more challenging to be in neutral with both legs extended. So we need to work jolly strongly into the pelvic diamond, navel pulling to the spine, back of your waist working firmly, sides of your waist and right across at the front. We're going to need to be using as well the strength into the back of the rib cage, sides of the rib cage, and working hard to hold on to the strength between the ribs at the base of the breastbone. So let's challenge the position a little bit more. You can flex into your feet, push into your heels to help you with an inhalation, letting the arms move back. Shoulder blades can release down the back as the arms move back. They might make the floor, they don't have to. Just double checking that you're staying in neutral. So what often happens is this, the breastbone pings up and the ribs separate. So working very hard there, breathing, don't forget to breathe here. And then on an exhalation, hold on to the strength that you needed to be in neutral in this full body stretch position. Hold on to it, try not to let it go even though you don't need it anymore at the moment. You'll need it again in a minute. Let's breathe in to bend the right knee and bring the sole of the right foot onto the mat. Keep stretching into the left leg, keep the inside of the leg in line with your tailbone. And then as we're ready, side leg release here with one leg straight and one knee bent. We're going to hold 4 on the right side. Let's breathe out into the release, breathe in, back to the center. Same rules apply, working really hard through your core muscles and the back of the waist. Keep lengthening the spine to stay in your neutral. Breathing in to come back. Breathing out to release the leg to the side. Back of the waist has to work hard. Breathing in to come center. Once again, last time, keep the strength behind you, through the ribs, waist, leg releases, breathing in to come back. As you're ready, exhaling to slide the right leg away, working hard to stay in neutral, pelvic diamond working, belt strength working, ribs squeezing in towards the spine, breastbone and spine moving towards each other, testing it again, arms release back, shoulder blades wide, moving down the back, staying in neutral and breathing, pushing into the heels to help you. Once again, as you're ready, exhaling to bring the arms back to the side, hold on to the strength that you needed in the full body stretch. As you're ready, breathing in, left knee bends, sole of the foot comes in contact with the mat. Once again, right leg stays in line with the hip joint, inside of the leg follows the line of the tailbone and the spine. Breathing in to prepare. Exhalation, pelvic diamond, really wide, scoop and hollow. Back of your waist working, leg moves to the side. And then once again, breathing in to come back to the center. Working to really maintain your neutral spine position. Keep stretching and lengthening the spine. Deep, deep strength cutting in across the sides of the waist. Breathing in to come back. Breastbone keeps lengthening away from the face. Breastbone and spine keep moving together. Breathing out. Breathing in to come back. And the last one. Last time. Breathing out. Keep lengthening through your spine. Release the leg to the side. Breathing in to come center. And relaxing everything down this time. So both legs can extend. We just roll the legs inwards and outwards a couple of times at the hip joints to relax. Releasing and wobbling the hips. The same, ribs and the shoulders. Arms rolling inwards and outwards a couple of times at the shoulders. And releasing the neck gently as feels comfortable. Very good. So that's quite a challenging little sequence there with the length of the body extended on the mat. Let's bend the knees again. So we've got the legs in the double V shape, just rearranging again the weight through the pelvis, balancing it right side, left side, also through the ribs and shoulders, lengthening the neck, supporting the head with the hands, and centering the weight of the head. We'll bring the arms by the sides, feet that 2 fist distance apart again, legs relaxed in the hip joints, assuming the neutral spine position. Little spotlight on the tailbone shining to between the heels, crests of the hip bones shining to the ceiling, space between the spine and the floor at the back of the waist, spine through the back of the rib cage in contact with the mat, fist distance between the chin and the chest. Shoulders broad and released. Let's find our pelvic diamond strength. Scoop and hollow wide out to the sides from deep within the abdominal muscles, and then draw back through the center, away from the thumbs and the index fingers. Letting the navel pull to the spine, letting the imaginary belt fasten as you breathe out, muscles in the back of the waist engaging deep to the spine, sides and the front. And your ribs also taper into the spine. Let's test our strength. Now that the core strength is working around the spine is suspended in the weight of the core muscle, in the strength of the core muscles. And as we peel one heel away, if the core is working hard enough, we feel that the pelvis stays light on the mat and the ribs and the shoulders the same. So you're just peeling one heel away and returning. Just a couple of times. If you feel that the hips sink into the mat when you lift your heel, then engage the core strength more deeply, especially into the back of the waist. And now we're going to come into the knee float position. So let your spine really lengthen, tailbone to crown, scoop and hollow firmly, and float the leg up, feeling lots of power in your core, rather less effort in your leg. Breathing in here, and then as you're ready again, on the exhalation, floating the leg back to the mat. Breathing in, broad and wide, scoop and hollow, lengthening the spine from the tailbone to the crown, keeping the supporting leg relaxed and easy, avoiding pressing it into the mat. Knee float on your second leg. Breathing in here, breathing out to return the leg. So we're going to do one more like this to each side. You can always, again, test that the pelvis isn't wobbling with the fingertips on the crests of the hip bones. You can always test that the lower abdomen is staying engaged with the fingertips resting into the lower abdomen. Breathing in to prepare, exhaling to peel the foot away, float the leg up, keeping your spine really long, breathing in this position, and once again breathing out to use the back of your waist firmly to bring the foot back to the mat. And again, breathing in to lengthen your spine, release through the inside leg, float the knee up. Going to hold here, and this time on the inhalation, lengthening the leg up as much as you can from above the hip joint, through the thigh, through the knee, towards your heel. And then again, breathing out to bend the knee. So it's breathing in, let your spine lengthen, support the weight of the waist and the pelvis with your core muscles, and then lengthen your leg through the thigh, towards the knee, through the shin, towards the foot. So avoiding just pushing the foot into a random space, but really connect the movement will make it much, much easier. Inhalation to stretch, exhalation to bend at the knee again. Once more releasing, extending, can flex here, breathing out, bend your knee and to lower the leg. Breathing in, a moment to prepare, neutral, setting the core strength really deep. Exhalation to knee float. Breathing in here, lengthening into the leg. Can flex if it suits you. And again, breathing out to bend the knee. Breathing in to lengthen from the sitting bone through to the back of the knee, and then reach on into the heel. Breathing out to bend the knee again. As the weight of the leg moves upwards, it's quite hard to keep the back of the waist off the mat, so really support with the core strength beneath you in the back of the waist. And then again, breathing out. Last time, letting your spine lengthen, pelvic diamond, back of waist, move through the whole leg towards your heel. And then again, breathing out to bend the knee and to float the leg back towards the mat. Well done. From there, we're going to come over onto the side. So in a sense, from the double V position, if you've got enough space, you just roll over. And in theory, you're already in neutral, already with your core strength engaged. However, we better deepen the core strength being here as well. And it's often in these side lying positions very helpful just to support your neck with something between the head and the arm. Going to let the knees be bent so they're in front of the body, and heels or soles of feet, back of hips, back of shoulders, back of head level, fist distance. Letting the legs be nice and relaxed in the hip joints. Pelvic diamond switched on again. Sometimes you can imagine this contraction also like the muscles contracting in a smile from the pubic bone out to the crests of the hip bones either side, but it's that broad and wide scoop and hollow. So as well here, fastening the belt very firmly, especially this lower waist. The belt has to work very hard here to keep the waist away from the floor. Sometimes I just imagine a mini belt fastening around each of the vertebrae in the waist, and there are 5 of them there between the pelvis and the rib cage. So eventually, as the waist strength is strong enough, this top hip is really lengthening away from the shoulder and the lower waist is quite lifted. The space between the ribs and the pelvis is quite tight. Collarbones broad and open, shoulder blade wide and moving down the back, rib cage engaged towards your spine. Going to come into the clams exercise. So if to work this you were to imagine that your sitting bone is going to arrive in your shoulder blade, so try to really move the sitting bone to your shoulder blade. That helps you to go really deep into the gluteal muscles. Keep working from the gluteal muscles to rotate your thigh in the hip joint. So the action is coming from here, breathing in to come back. So the gluteal muscles turn the thigh bone out in the hip joint. So when you're really able to work very strongly, you feel that the muscle that begins on the sitting bone and attaches into the thigh bone is working hard enough that it's able to lever the thigh bone into a rotated action like that. So keep working from behind in the gluteal muscles. Keep the back of your waist strong, back of the ribs and shoulders strong, back of the neck working, your spine lengthening out of the hips as the gluteal muscles rotate the hip joint, turn the thigh out, breathe in to release. So we've got 2 to go. So drawing up sitting bone to shoulder blade, working behind, hip stays above hip, shoulder above shoulder. Keep the effort at the gluteal muscles, turning the thigh out, lower waist stays lifted, and then as we're ready again, breathing in to release. One last time, really lengthen your spine, tailbone to crown, drawing up through the gluteal muscles, rotating, hip above hip, shoulder above shoulder, breathing out into this position and breathing out to release back down. Good, well done. So let's swap over to the other side. You can just lift up and then turn around. Being in this position this time, letting the weight of the hips be nice and vivid on the mat, knees a little bit forward of the body, and then coming down, pelvic diamond already switching on, belt strength already switching on, muscles around the rib cage working to keep the ribs tapered in towards the spine, edging through. And again here we can always just support the head with something between the arm and the head, hip above hip, shoulder above shoulder, collarbones broad, ribs opening and broadening away from the breastbone, but just checking that the muscles are working to keep your rib cage supporting the spine and working enough to keep the rib cage supporting the spine. Shoulder blade wide and moving down the back, collarbones open, hip above hip. Renewing the pelvic diamond strength, so check your legs are relaxed at the hip joints. Pelvic diamond again, and all that little idea of contracting the muscles in a smile away from the pubic bone. Navel can pull to the spine, and then you're fastening, let's say, a mini belt around each of the 5 vertebrae in the waist. So this top hip lengthens away from your shoulder, and this area is nice and tight. And again, we have some space between the spine and the floor there. So we try to, again here, locate our gluteal muscles. Try to draw your sitting bone up towards your shoulder blade. Keep the strength behind you in the gluteal muscles, in the back of the waist, in the back of the ribs and the shoulders, and the back of the neck. And when you really rotate the leg using the gluteal muscles, you get this distinctive instep, pressing forward, breathing in to release. So again, let your spine lengthen, let the pelvis be nice and wide and open, drawing the gluteal muscles up from the sitting bone as if it's going to arrive in the shoulder blade. Keep opening across the front of the pelvis, inside hip joint, inside thigh. Once again, breathing in to release. Spine lengthens, pelvic diamond, belt, back, side, front. Keep the back of your body strong. Avoid the effort coming forwards. Rotating, using the gluteal muscles, instep presents forwards. Breathing in to release. So again, as the thigh rotates and rises, there's extra work here for the core to support the spine in neutral. So just keep an eye that as the weight of your leg is rotating and lifting, that this stays off the floor. And then the other thing that can happen is that the leg pulls the hips back. So again, just keeping hip above hip, use the back of your waist very firmly, breathing in to release. 2 to go. So deep pull up through the gluteal muscles, rotating, opening across the front of the hip and the inner thigh, breathing in to release. And very last one, spine lengthens, core works, work behind you, glutes, back of waist, back of shoulders, back of neck, opening in the front of the hips, holding the pelvis in position, and breathing in to release. Good, well done. And as we breathe in, let's press up from there. And we can just have a little bit of a stretch through the backs of the legs, through the back of the hips, hinging forwards like this. So ideally, as we come into this position, just check that you're still in neutral. So just trying to be pretty much in the neutral. Just at the moment, feel a bit of a stretch around here. Breathing. Lift away from that a little and bring the legs parallel, lengthening forwards, letting the back stay in neutral. Legs might extend, collarbones open, shoulder blades wide and moving down the back. Breathing here. Breathing in to lift up and away. Going to come through onto the mat, again now onto the back, and thinking about working towards the Passé Développé exercise. And initially we're going to come into the knee float exercise again, only this time we're going to add into that the same action as we've just worked in the clams. So once again, aligning the pelvis and balancing the weight out through the hips, lengthening the spine in the waist and balancing the weight out through the ribs and the shoulders, lengthening the neck by supporting the head with the hands, letting the neck and head be centered all the time when you know what you're doing and you don't have to look at the screen. 2 fist distance between the feet, 1.5 fist distance between the knees, checking in with your neutral spine alignment, spotlight on the tailbone shining to between the heels, a little bit of space between the spine and the floor at the back of the waist, spine through the back of the ribcage in contact with the mat, fist distance between the chin and the chest, legs released at the hip joints. Peeling one foot away on your right side to flow up into the knee float. As you're here, rotating the leg using the gluteal muscles on the outside of the hip to turn it out, keeping the pelvis level and balanced. Breathing in to relax that rotational action and breathing out to return the leg and the foot to the mat. Setting your neutral spine, breathing in, lengthening the spine, deepening the core strength really firmly. As you're ready, exhalation to float your left leg up, to rotate the leg from the hip joint. Turn it out as the knee goes wide, have to work hard to keep the pelvis balanced. Breathing in to release that rotation, exhale to lower the leg. Once again to each side. So breathing in to prepare lengthening the spine, pelvic diamond, exhalation into your knee float, working your rotation. Breathing in to release the rotation, breathing out to lower the leg. Breathing in to really align your spine, to support it really deep with your core muscles, peeling the foot away from the mat, other leg stays relaxed, rotating the leg at the hip joint on that exhalation, breathing in to release the rotation, exhaling to lower. Going to come now into the Passé Développé exercise, and let's work it through quite slowly the first time to each side, whilst we think about exactly all the strength that we need. A knee float on the exhalation and the rotation action. From here, with the knee above the hip joint, we're going to aim to extend the leg on an inhalation, releasing through the inside of the leg and gradually flexing at the heel. On the exhalation, the leg is going to lengthen away from us. Keep the inside of the leg in line with your tailbone, in line with your spine. Lengthen your spine in the opposite direction and think about the strength that we practiced in the full body stretch earlier to maintain your spine in the neutral. Leg is lengthening, but it's well anchored into the hip joint and the core muscles are supporting your spine. When the leg is lowered, breathe in to turn the knee towards the ceiling, breathe out to bring the leg back in and towards you. So that was quite a slow practice. We'll do it like that to the second side as well. Breathing in to set up your neutral spine position. Breathing out, pelvic diamond really strong, waist strength really strong, strength around the ribs and knee float with the turn out action. From here, breathing in to lengthen the inside leg. Let it lengthen up, keeping it tight in line with the hip joint. And at the top of the movement, as you're ready, flexing the foot and then lengthening the leg away from you through the inside leg. Keep the spine and the inside leg tracking one another. Use your core strength like we practiced in the full body stretch exercise. Use the gluteal muscles at the outside of the hip to support you. Breathing in to turn the knee towards the ceiling. Breathing out to come back. So let's work it through a little bit more swiftly. So here we are. Exhalation, knee float, and the rotational action with the gluteal muscles. Breathing in to lengthen the leg through the inside leg, and then as you're ready, flexing the foot, lots and lots of deep strength to support you as the leg lengthens away in line with your spine. Breathing in to turn the leg around, breathing out to bring it back. Breathing in to prepare, breathing out knee float with your turn out action. Breathing in to keep this thigh tight in line with your hip joint as you lengthen up. Flexing at the ankle and lengthening the leg away. So check that the small of the back stays in neutral. Use the strength of the small of the back, lowering the leg, breathing in, knee towards the ceiling, and come back. What often happens in this exercise is that as the leg is lowering, the small of the back arches, or people push down into the floor for support. With the small of the back arching, it's a lot of strain on the spine. We really want to avoid that. It's better if you can't support the action to push the back into the mat than to arch. But if you're pushing your back into the mat, you're losing a lot of the potential to train your core strength, because using the floor for strength is not training the strength of our body. And also this exercise is really a kick in standing with a nice balance through our back and able to move on again from there. So if when we're practicing the développé on the floor, we're using the floor for strength, it's not helping us for standing action. So what I always recommend is that when people are coming into these movements, that here at the start of the movement, you don't just have the strength that you need for the knee float, but you think right back to all the strength you used in the full body stretch exercise. Set your spine to neutral, let it lengthen, put all the strength in that you need for the full body stretch exercise. Knee float the leg through and rotate. Keep the pelvis well supported here, back of the waist and pelvic diamond working, stretch up. And now, as your leg is lowering, you've already got the strength that you need in place because you put it there at the start of the movement. Keep the spine lengthening, try to absorb the strength you need deep into your body, into your core, breathing in to turn the knee around, exhaling to return. Breathing in to prepare. Exhaling, knee float on your second side and rotate. Lots of strength into the back of the waist and in your pelvic diamond to support you here. Keep lengthening your spine, tailbone to crown, lowering the leg in line with your spine. Keep the spine lengthening in the opposite direction. Keep your other leg light, flowing through to the floor, breathing in to turn the knee towards the ceiling. Breathe out to hug it back. Well done. So it's a very challenging exercise. It's an enjoyable exercise though. It has a nice sense of lengthening and strengthening combined in it. So we can hug the legs in and towards us, circling the hips on the mat 2 or 3 times to release our backs. The lower back muscles have been working hard in that exercise. And then let's just come into a gentle spinal twist. We can support the head with the hands beneath it, elbows stretching out to the sides, and then breathing out gently, coming into a twist here. We're going to maintain the twist and just use it to help us stretch the body a little bit. Breathing. As you're ready again on an exhalation, peeling back towards the center, just spacing out the spine. And then as you're ready, gently twisting towards the other side, keeping your opposite shoulder anchored into the mat. And again, relaxing here. Breathing. And then once more, as you're ready, letting the legs come back through and towards the center. Let's roll ourselves over from here. And we're just going to stretch the back a little bit more, taking up a neutral spine position here, and then lengthening the sitting bones back as you keep opening the spine forwards and downwards. And if this is a comfortable position for you, resting in this position. If it's not so comfortable, just come forwards a little bit, rest on the forearms, check that your abdominal muscles are really lifted. Lengthen back from the forearms, not so much flexion through the knees in this version, but the spine still able to lengthen. In either position, making sure that your breath is flowing. And the last breath here, and as you're ready, you're going to roll up through the spine back towards a seated position. Well done. I hope that you've enjoyed the sequence towards Passé Développé, and that if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, that you would think of doing so. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you again soon on the Movement Style channel.